Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And today I'm very excited because we finally have Family and Community Mediator Donna Costache, owner of Casa Tianu Mediation, and she's calling in all the way from Ridgewood in New Jersey. Now, Donna, who has a wealth of experience around divorce mediation, will be talking to you today about keeping yourself motivated during divorce and how to reimagine your life. Now, that sounds like a very interesting topic. So if you are one of the increasing number of people who find themselves either in divorce, you've been through divorce, you're considering your options for divorce, and you're out there in the Ridgewood, New Jersey area, hoping to find jargon-free information surrounding your divorce-related problems, then it might just be a good idea just to, go ahead, press pause on life for a few moments, log out of Facebook, stop the Twittering and Instagramming or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction. And you know something, ladies and gentlemen, you may even want to go ahead and grab yourself a notepad and pen and get ready to take some copious notes as we listen in to what Donna has to share with us today. So with that said, let's not keep her waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your show, Stuart.
You are so welcome, my dear. So let's just jump feet first in then, Donna. It goes without saying that anything you share with us from this point on today is obviously not any kind of legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Now, can you just spend a brief moment expanding on that in your own words for us, please, Donna?
Absolutely, Stuart. Today, we are going to talk about divorce mediation. Mediation is not a legal process. It is not a litigated process that two parties choose to go through when they choose to separate. Mediation offers you many life-changing opportunities. And with your permission, and thank you very much for your time today, I want to expand on that because when people choose to get a divorce and they go to mediation, the last thing that's going through their mind is, this is a life-changing, life-enhancing opportunity. Now, this is where my expertise comes in, and this is how I want to help my clients.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with us then, Donna. So please, just for a moment, tell us a little bit about Casa Tianu Mediation and the people who you serve and the kinds of situations that they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Absolutely. Casa Tianu is the name of my practice. I chose this name in memory of my grandfather who had a tailor business, a tailor shop called Casa Tianu, and I carry his memory and the importance of his vocational work through the work that I do. And the work that I do, the people I assist, are geared towards resolving conflict. I assist people who find themselves in conflict, be it with their spouse, so they want to get a divorce or they want to get a separation, or workplace mediation. There's a conflict between an employee and maybe a manager or, the legal entity that they are being employed by, or community mediation. Now, in community mediation, there are many aspects of it that can be resolved through mediation. Community means issues within the local school system, with the local government of a town, various types of local communities where you may find to be in conflict with at a certain point in time. Your interest doesn't coincide with the interest of the community and you want to get a resolution.
So Donna, tell me this, for the people who are listening in right now, what are some of the advantages of keeping yourself motivated during the divorce process?
Well, I have to give you a little bit of a background about my work prior to becoming specialized in family and community mediation. I actually have over 18 years of experience in strategic communication, communication training, and leadership training. And I have worked with hundreds of companies and executives and CEOs in Europe and the United States, taking them through crisis moment, providing them with crisis communication strategies. So throughout that time, I was able to develop a method that helps me today provide the same advice, the same help to people who are coming to resolve their conflict through mediation. And I have seen that even if you're dealing with a corporate crisis at your work, or you're dealing with a personal crisis in your family or community, the most important thing to carry you through the process is how you maintain motivation, self-awareness, and focus throughout the process itself. And with divorce, and I'm sure that many of your listeners are going to be able to relate, with divorce, if it's the litigated type, it can take years. And it's not going to take a toll just on your finances, but it's going to take a huge toll on your mental health. And I know that previously you've had guests who have talked about this issue. Mm-hmm. But aside of acknowledging that there is a huge mental and emotional toll that people, have to live with when they go through divorce, there are techniques, there are ways that you can employ, that you can basically learn how to live with during the process of separation. And some of those methods I incorporate in the coaching I do with my clients before every single session we go in together.
Okay, so those are some of the advantages of keeping yourself motivated during divorce. So what do you feel are some of the biggest myths that are out there, Donna, when it comes to staying motivated throughout divorce? Please share a couple of them with us.
One myth is that if you keep yourself busy throughout the process of your divorce or throughout your conflict, if you keep yourself busy with other things, you are not going to be as stressed. So you tell yourself that focusing on your work, doing overtime, focusing on your kids is going to help you take your mind off the process of divorce. I, from my experience, can tell you that this is not the right strategy to employ. All you do is postpone the moment of high stress that you're absolutely going to have to face sometime in the process of your divorce. And the sooner you face that moment, the better. What I'm saying is that there's absolutely the myth of keeping yourself busy throughout divorce, not thinking about, your spouse, your future former spouse, not thinking about the negative things that's around you, but actually facing them in a way that's very focused, realistic, pragmatic, knowing what the steps of your mediation are going to help you reduce considerably the amount of stress that you are facing. So absolutely in mediation, I try to debunk the myth of keeping yourself busy and distracted from the process of your divorce. The reality is the more focused you are on what you need to do, the better the result will be, the faster you will achieve the outcome that you want to achieve.
Now, these are some really great insights that you've been sharing with us so far, Donna. But both you and I know that for the common man, the common lady on the street, when they think about the whole divorce process at this current moment in time, divorce mediation is not something that's top of mind. It's still a fairly new concept in of itself. So when they do hear about divorce mediation, they may go online and do some research. They may ask friends. They may ask somebody who's actually gone through divorce and used the divorce mediation process and come up with their own concepts of what they believe to be true. However, quite often those concepts, they can be some misguided truths. So with that said then, Donna, what are some of the misconceptions around your industry? Please share one or two with us today.
One misconception is that mediation is also a legal process, and it is not. The two people who come into my office and we all sit around the table and we go through what the mediation process is. Mm-hmm. The two people are often surprised to learn that what I'm doing is basically giving them back their own power, their individual power over their destiny, over the way they want to decide to live their life, divide their responsibilities, their obligations, and reimagine their future independent of one another. There's almost no legal talk. There are some aspects of what we're talking about and the decisions they have to make that require a little bit more specialized technical knowledge, be it financial or I don't want to call it legal, but let's just say that it has some specifics, like, we're talking about custody and we have to explain some of the options. But it's not legal in the sense that there's no attorney there representing you, speaking for you, and there's no judge making the decision for you. There's no court deadline that you have to meet, or there's no paper you have to file. The power is in your hands. And I guess that's a shift that has to happen in terms of mentality here, because people can't believe that they can actually reach out a perfect agreement, an agreement that's acceptable to both of them about how they want to live their life post-divorce without the intervention of somebody else, of a third, fourth, fifth party. There are so many things to say about keeping your own power, but the truth is a lot of people in the American legal system have gotten used to giving away their power to attorneys, be it in a civil case or, criminal case. They are giving away their power of deciding how they want to go about achieving their outcome. And it's also a mentality of I'm comfortable with that because if I go and I pay my attorney, then I don't have to talk. I don't have to communicate directly to the other party. And yes, I have had cases where communication between the two spouses in my mediation room was extremely difficult. Maybe there was verbal violence, threats, and it was difficult for them to sit in. What got them to be able to sit in is a common understanding and common desire for the future of their children. And that allowed them to be able to understand they can have the meaningful conversations about their life. Because the aspects of your life, the aspects you're going to be talking about in mediation, are extremely personal. They're not legal. They don't belong in a legal document. They belong in a personal, private conversation. That's the reality of mediation.
Right. And thanks for sharing that with us, Donna. Those are some very useful insights. Now, while you were speaking, you touched on the topic of family and children, and it kind of reminded me that I didn't share with you in our conversation before you came on the show the actual reasons for me doing this particular series, Let's Talk Divorce, and inviting experts like yourself to come and share their insights on the show. So the main reason for doing this show is I myself was a child of divorce. Now, I'm going somewhere with this, so just bear with me for a moment, please, Donna. I was a child of divorce. My family, my mother and father went through a very volatile, it was very violent. There was lots of fighting, there was lots of blood, and that happened before my very eyes. And I was only 9 years old at the time. Now, I obviously didn't have the capability to process that and ended up blaming myself. I carried the guilt of my mother and father's breakup on my tiny little shoulders as a young child, and throughout my teenage years, my young adult years, and way up into my mid-40s. And it wasn't until then that I started to develop the tools, do some more research, start to speak with experts like yourself to be able to cope with the emotional fallout of my parents' breakup. And the reason why I brought you onto the show and why I bring experts like you onto the show is to give those children like myself, who I like to call the invisible voices, is to indirectly, through people like yourself, to give them a voice, that in the hope that when you come onto the show and you share all of these amazing insights that you've shared so far, that the listeners out there who may find themselves in a similar situation where there is conflict, they're going through separation, in the hope that they may just look at things differently and put their children first, treat each other more amicably, communicate better in front of the children, and do, as I like to say, love their children more than they hate themselves at this particular moment. And I'm not taking anything away. There may be valid reasons for the conflict. However, the children must absolutely come first. And I'm currently 55 years old now. I am married. I got recently married. But it took me a long time to deal with that emotional fallout, and had a huge impact on my education, the jobs that I went into, the relationships. I've only recently got married, but I walked away from a lot of relationships based on my past experiences and the reference points I had with my parents. So with all of that said, Donna, what would you just like to share from your perspective as an expert, as a mediator, to the listeners out there who may find themselves in that unfortunate position where there is conflict, but there are also children involved? What would you like to share with them briefly?
Well, there's no better life lesson to give your children than to go through your separation in mediation, not through litigation. You teach your children that out of respect for yourself and for your spouse and for your child, you choose not to give away your power. You choose not to create this huge barrier between you and your spouse, barrier of communication during the process of separation. You show your strength, your inner strength to your child by sitting down with your spouse and, maybe at home with your spouse and your child, if your child is, let's say, over the age of 8, and explain how your life is going to look like. There's nothing more important to children at a young age, let's say before their teens, than having certainty about their life. And of course, if their parents are getting a divorce, they feel like their life, as they lived it so far, is going to end. So there's a lot of uncertainty in their life. It can cause a lot of anxiety, depression, problems in their future and in their school performance, in their relationships, as you just mentioned that has happened to you. So by sitting down in mediation, you send a message to your child that this is how a conflict can be resolved. A conflict can be resolved through communication, by talking with the other person, not shutting the other person out, talking about every single issue that is important to the continuation of the family life. And, in order to preserve balance, as much balance as possible for the child. So I guess, this is an argument that any mediator can make, and it's absolutely true. And I have seen the benefits on the entire family when such open conversations happen inside the house or in the office of the mediator, so facilitated by the mediator.
So we're talking today, just as a reminder, about keeping yourself motivated during divorce and how to reimagine your life post-divorce. So with that said then, Donna, what are some of your clients' most, let's say their most common fears about life before, during, and post-divorce?
Well, pretty much everybody, when they come in mediation, are uncertain about their future. There's a certain degree of uncertainty in every single case. In some cases, it can be much higher. Let's say that, a couple gets divorced and one of the spouses, sometimes it's the mother, that is unemployed and has been a caretaker for the child or the children, and now will have to take on the responsibility of the household all by herself after the divorce, even though, let's say, there will be child support and there will be maintenance, but the psychological responsibility of being a single parent may seem overwhelming to her, and she is unable to project a different kind of future for herself. Will she ever remarry? How will that be possible since she has small children she needs to take care of? On the other side, the father, who perhaps has been working very long hours, perhaps he has a very demanding job. Now he gets joint custody, for example. Now he gets access to the children for almost half the time, but previously he was not able to spend a lot of time with them. But now, because the parents agreed on joint custody and also on basically giving the father access to the children, he needs to reimagine his own life to be more present in the children's lives. Because so far, his wife was the one who was, shuttling the kids around and taking care of their schedules, their education, their meals. Now he will have to change his own schedule to be more present in the kids' life. So both adults will have to reimagine their life. And the best way to do it is not after the whole process of divorce is over, because it has a very strong effect of motivating you, of keeping you focused on the outcomes you need to reach if you do this exercise of imagination during the process of your divorce, even in the moments when it seems the hardest, when you feel like you're not going to reach a resolution, even though you are, in the room with your spouse and with a mediator, and communication is facilitated for you, but maybe there are moments or there are topics where you can't seem to reach a resolution as fast as you would like to. So you need to keep yourself motivated. There are exercises you can employ, you can do together, not together in the same space and in the same time, but the mediator, and I am absolutely prepared to do that for any one of my clients before, during, and after the mediation session, to remind them to think about their goals post-divorce, to imagine their life as they want it to be after the divorce. And sometimes it's those little exercises of imagination that gives them the extra strength to be able to conclude conversation, discussion, debate on a certain topic, because they realize it's not worth clinging on to, paying for the former spouse's car, or it's not about the numbers. It's about how you want to live your life. And yes, your life will look differently, but if that vision of yours is pretty clear, it's going to really boost your self-confidence throughout the process.
Right, so both you and I know there are just so many fears about the divorce process, and you've named a few examples for us, but how can the listeners out there actually get past those fears that you've spoken about today, then, Donna?
Well, I'll give you an example of a couple who came to me for mediation, and after 3 mediation sessions, one of the spouses, the wife, decided that she wants to choose going through the litigated process. I haven't lost too many couples to, not too many couples came to mediation to me and then decided to go the litigated way. But it's very interesting to observe and also limit my intervention, because could I have done something to change the spouse's mind? Perhaps I could have, but people need to exercise their free will. If their free will brought them into mediation, and if after understanding fully the process and the benefits of mediation, they still decide to go through litigation, there is a path. There's a personal path they have to follow to be at peace with their life that they could not have found through mediation. And those are rare cases, but they exist. And they come out of fear, absolutely out of fear. If they would have been motivated by love for themselves, for their child, they would have not chosen the vindictive, lengthy, costly process. They would have stayed with mediation, but they were not motivated by love. They were motivated by fear. And their individual fear was greater than they could manage at the time. And where does that fear come from? It comes from, many childhood expectations about how your life was supposed to look like, about peer, it comes from peer pressure, from community pressure, from well-meant advice that doesn't really do you any good from many of your friends. And there's another factor that, when corroborated with fear, truly produces negative results in the process of separation, and that's distraction. Because, as I said, people want to get as distracted as possible from their conflict, and they think it's going to help them get through it, but it's doing the opposite. So on top of their fears about how their life will go downhill if they're getting a divorce, the distractions they receive from social media, from chitter-chatter from their friends, from various emails and advice, it just confuses them. It doesn't allow them to get back to that point of strength and understanding and introspection about their life and about their future. So they're unable to stop long enough to be able to imagine a better future for themselves. They give into their fears. They become totally confused, and they feel, since I have no power left, I'm just going to pay an attorney. I can't deal with this. But it's because of the fear combined with all the distractions that this has happened.
So, Donna, what are some of the perceived obstacles that you see which may be preventing people from seeking the help of a family community mediator like yourself?
First of all, I would say it's mentality. It's the traditional way of doing things. And whenever there's a shift, it takes a while for the balance to keep in the favor of change. It takes a while. You need to build up your clients up to a point where the balance shifts in your favor in terms of trend. So traditionally, in the United States, when people get a divorce, they hire an attorney. They people are not informed. They don't understand that there's this much better option that's going to get them to their, outcome faster and cheaper and with much less personal stress, with a much better outcome on their mental and emotional health. So it's education. The number one obstacle I feel right now is education of the masses in this direction. So I am personally doing the best that I can to educate people in my community about the importance and existence of mediation, and not just for family conflicts, but for any kind of conflict, because mediation is just the facilitation of communication that's been obstructed. And it's not very, very hard, and in any way not impossible, to reinstate a level of trust and communication between two people who have already lived a long time in a state of conflict. It's totally possible if there's a communication facilitator right there in the room to show them some benefits of communication, to reinstate some rules of communication, to help them navigate a process that has specific outcomes that they need to reach. So again, education is so important.
So 5-10 years down the line then, Donna, where do you see divorce mediation as a process itself? Where do you see it going?
I see it as the option of choice, where educated people who care about their relationships and their finances and the future of their children, they are going to choose it over and over because they know it's a seamless, easy compared to the other process, easy process that will help them maintain self-respect and relationships. Because unfortunately, if you ask so many people, most probably even your parents, if you would be able to ask them, what you lose more than money during the process of litigated divorce is relationships. Of course, you lose the relationship with the spouse, but then you lose friends. You lose family members from your extended families who now have to choose Camp A versus Camp B. Mediation tells extended families and communities that we, spouse A and spouse B, are dealing with this ourselves. We're not making it your problem. You don't have to take my side. You don't have to perceive the other person as, the nemesis in our life right now. We are going to deal with this in a mature way, keeping our power, imagining our future, and we'll just leave the other relationships kind of set, find their normal tone, normal pace in the future without necessarily cutting them. Because cutting relationships from somebody, you're getting a divorce and then you would not be allowed to see that friend anymore or the other friend because I met them first or they were my friend first. It can make you feel debilitated, much more than I'm going to take away your credit cards or I'm going to cut your access to our accounts. So you can't isolate people. People need to feel supported and loved, but they need to be able to keep their roots in a way. You can't totally uproot somebody from their web of relationships during a divorce. That's really emotionally debilitating.
So many golden nuggets in that answer. I'm just sitting here just nodding my head saying, yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah, that's our family killing me softly with her song. Right. Because even, like I said, you alluded to before, 55 years old now, 8-9 years old when my parents divorced, the legacy of that separation still lives on today where, what you said, choosing sides, that still lives on today. And you just bringing that up, it just made me think. I was like, wow, that still actually exists in my own family. It's actually crazy when you think about it. But yeah, they didn't have mediation in those days. It was just straight litigation, and yeah, that's the result of that. It's that legacy still lives on today. It's fascinating just to hear you say that. So thanks for bringing up that point. Very poignant. So anyway, yeah, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. So you spoke previously about some of the obstacles that are out there within the audience, the people who you serve. Now, can you just share an example of how you've actually helped some of those separating couples to overcome those obstacles that you were speaking about and succeed in getting the transformation that they were looking for when they initially reached out to you?
Well, again, I believe that what I bring to the table from my experience as a communicator, it's the coaching that I do with them to help them reimagine their life in the future after the process is over, to help them see that there is a very clear path for them that they are in charge of after the divorce. So it's that work that I do with both of them, because both parties need to feel empowered. When they come into the session and they feel angry, resentful, upset, what kind of outcomes do you think they will achieve? Even though we go through a very clear process, the outcomes they will achieve are not going to be as positive, as good, as productive as if they would be if they would come to the session with a positive mindset. So the coaching work that I do pre-session and during the mediation process is a combination of my work as a communicator, as a trainer, and my expertise as a mediator. So I feel that has been the best advantage I have been able to give to my clients in mediation. And one recent example would be advising a couple who had been engaged for quite some time, and they would not be able to reach the moment of focus and decision to actually get married. So this was not divorce, it was going to be a separation, but it ended up being, a successful trip to the aisle. They got married because they were hanging on to their baggage from previous relationships and from their childhood so hard that they wouldn't allow the other person to become their co-pilot for the future. When they were imagining their future, it was very hard for each of them to give the other person a very important role in that future. So I worked with them to help them imagine a future where they each play a very important role in their own lives, in the lives of their children, in their lives of their communities, and they actually had so much in common professionally. They worked in the same industry. If they would, go out for lunch or for dinner, they would have so many things that they would have to talk about. It's just their fears were holding them back, and it's a natural fear of not failing again at something that you've done in the past. It didn't quite work out. But by putting their goals on paper, imagining their married life in the first 5 years of marriage with goals and what they want to achieve together professionally, personally, and also individually, how to grow individually, it will truly help them, and they actually got married.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Family and Community Mediator Donna Costache, and her topic today is keeping yourself motivated during divorce, how to reimagine your life. Now, with that in mind, Donna, and for those people who are listening in right now, what are some of the unknown pitfalls or even common mistakes that they should be mindful of, whatever kind of situation they find themselves in?
Don't hurry up. Don't give in to your first impulse. First of all, let me say that there are two types of conflicts that you can find yourself in. One is an active kind of conflict. Something happens today or happened really recently that triggers the worst emotions in you. You feel that you can't live one more step next to your partner, and you have to do something right now. You're going to call the police or install that order of protection, or you're going to do something to end it right now. You can't take it anymore. And of course, there are cases when we're talking about personal safety, the safety of the children, that need to be dealt with in a very different way and not through mediation. But in most cases, when that, emotion, that urge comes because something happened right now, it's recent, what you have to do is truly calm yourself down and consider all the implications of a litigated divorce. Because I would say, and I do not have an official statistic, but many people, I don't want to say the majority, but I suspect it's true, majority of people who choose to hire an attorney are doing it because they had this sudden impulse. It was a very abrupt and rough reaction to something that had just happened. They might have lived in a conflicting situation for many years, but something just happened and they think, I can't take it anymore. So what you have to do is truly calm yourself down, give yourself a good night's sleep, think about it again tomorrow without being bombarded by advice from everybody else. And this is the active this is an active kind of conflict that triggers something in you. And people respond to their emotions and they rush into making this decision. There's another kind of conflict, which I call the passive kind of conflict, because it's been dragging on for years. You've been in a relationship and you're not happy in the relationship, and things happen sometimes. Every single month, around that date of the month when you expect, your paycheck, the paychecks are going to come, and then the next day you're going to have another and another and another argument on certain topics. So when that's the case, you already know what the key triggers for conflict in your relationship are. You are aware. It can be money. It can be your kids' education. It can be your pattern for having fun. Maybe one spouse really enjoys going out and crawling the bars with friends, one weekend a month, and the other spouse would like to watch a movie and stay at home. And it's those kinds of triggers that you already know that happen all the time, every week, every month. So it's that passive, conflict and context that makes you reach a point. There's nothing dramatic that happens, but you reach a point when you ask yourself, am I really going to spend the rest of my life like that? Now, of course, again, you can say, I'm going to a mediator, or I'm going to a therapist, or I'm going to hire an attorney. But I feel at that moment, if there has ever been a loving relationship between you and your spouse, and all the differences you have are from different behaviors each of you has towards money or fun or education or personal growth, those can be reconciled through communication. And I can definitely do that.
So Donna, when you think about all the clients that you've helped throughout your career, and I'm talking about helping them to create the transformation that they were looking for when they initially reached out to you, because essentially, even though you're a divorce mediator working in your community, essentially you are a transformationalist. That's what you help your clients to do. You take them from point A to point C, where they're happy with the outcome. So when you think about all of those people throughout your whole 18-year career, personally now, on a deep down personal level, what does that actually give you then, Donna, when you're able to help them and create that transformation? And how does that make you feel?
Well, I have to say, Stuart, for the first 18 years of my career, I have mostly dealt with conflict and issues and preparing people, teaching them how to communicate within their work environment. Mm. And there's a stake there too. So people were very grateful that they became much better at motivating their employees, or they dealt successfully with a crisis, be it with the media or with a coworker. But there's no impact bigger than doing this for a family. Because when the family is stable, then the community is stable. Then, the bigger picture gets much better for everybody. And it all starts with the family. So there are things that every member of the family can learn about how to improve their behavior to one another and the communication with one another. And this is my mission. Aside from taking people through a process that's pretty clear, pretty straightforward. This is the process you have to go through if you want to separate. These are the things that you need to agree on. Aside from that, giving people some tools they can use for the rest of their lives, how to be empowered before any conflicting conversation, how to be able to think about the other person lovingly and not grudgingly, not looking for revenge, but looking for appeasement. Those are things that truly speak to my heart, and this is what I want to do with, the rest of my professional career.
So please share a little bit about your backstory then, Donna. What was it that inspired you to do what you do today as a family and community mediator?
Well, as I said, I already have extensive experience in communication, in training, in communication training, leadership training. I have started my own practice in strategic communications in 2004 in Romania, in Eastern Europe. And I have served multinational companies, executives, and a lot of professionals in Europe and the United States since then. But prior to opening up my practice in 2004, I was a news anchor, I was a talk show host, I was the vice president of an entrepreneurial NGO, and I was also the head of marketing and public relations for one of the largest European law firms for their office in Romania. And all of those experience that I've had up until about 2014, all of those experience together allowed me to understand the psychology and behavior around communication and all the issues that can arise when communication is obstructed, where between you and me, regardless of our roles, you can be a CEO and I'm an employee, you can be, a spouse and I'm the child, or the other spouse, or the parent-in-law, regardless of the roles that we play, we decide at some point we no longer want to communicate with one another. And that can happen by really literally not speaking to one another, or by totally keeping from one another what it is we actually want to accomplish. I'm not saying lying, I'm saying just keeping our reality away from one another. There are many families, unfortunately, where the parents have no idea what the teenager is doing, where the one spouse has no idea what the other spouse is dreaming about and desiring for their life. Because communication has been obstructed for so long, there's no path between the two people to be able to freely communicate anymore. So at some point around 2014, I got pregnant with my second child, my son, who is now 3 years old, and I also have a 10-year-old daughter. And I moved to this wonderful place called Ridgewood in New Jersey from New York City. And I discovered what I call the impact of community over family life. Living in New York City, you don't quite feel it that way because New York City is such a vibrant, electrical city. You live such a busy life there, and, everybody is busy. But when I moved to the suburbs, and this town is absolutely amazing in terms of what it offers to every family, when I moved here, I discovered true family life in the sense of dedicating more time to your family. And with a second child coming and with a new perspective on community and how I can be involved in a local community, I decided to take everything that I ever did in the field of strategic communication and redirect it towards working with families rather than executives in companies. And I have had such a meaningful, fulfilling experience ever since.
So, Donna, what's the most important question when you think about it, when you ponder on this? What's the most important question that people who are going through divorce should ask themselves while thinking about the whole divorce process?
The most important question they should ask themselves is, how do I want my life to look like when this is over? Because that's the motivator. That's what will keep them going, or that's what will make them change their minds. Because again, if we're acting on impulse, or if we're acting because we feel there's certain behaviors that can be reconciled with the other party, those can be fixed. But if there's a projection in your mind of a life that's so different that you want for yourself, that you feel you cannot achieve in the current situation with the current partner, then imagining that life in as much detail as you can is going to basically tell you, I'm definitely on the right track. I'm definitely doing what I have to do, because deciding to separate is not an easy decision. I would say and you've known this for yourself to be true. Deciding to separate, especially when there are children, will change everybody's life. Totally, completely. So it's not an easy decision to make. But when you have a clear picture of what you would like your life to be, and you feel that that's the direction you have to go, then it's going to be easier to talk about it with your partner if he or she can do the same imagination exercise and reimagine their own life in the future. And, some spouses come to me and they feel afraid to do this exercise. They actually say, but I don't want my life to change. Well, unfortunately, that there's only one spouse needed to get a divorce. So if the other one truly doesn't want to stay in the relationship, then the other spouse has two choices. Either he makes his own choices, or the choices are being made for him or her by the other spouse. So you have to do the work and ask yourself, what is it that I want for my life in the next 5 years?
So Donna, before we wrap things up with our last question for today and find out how people can get in touch with you, what's the most important thing that people in divorce should consider when evaluating a family and community mediator like yourself?
First of all, they should think if it's possible for the two of them to sit down with me and have an open, honest conversation about their lives, what they want to achieve, and commit to the process of mediation. There are, again, cases where there is domestic violence involved. There are, special issues related to the children involved, where specialists from other professions should be involved. But in, let's say, cases where the mother and the father, the two spouses, can sit down and they want to keep their power, they want to make the decisions about their life. If that's the case, they should definitely contact me, and I can help them reach an agreement that's acceptable to both of them, and also help them stay motivated through the process. Staying motivated through the process is going to help them shorten the length of the mediation process and reach all the agreements on a faster pace.
So Dan, if somebody out there feels that they want to know more about keeping themselves motivated during divorce and the divorce mediation process as a whole, what would be the best way for them to get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Well, they can Google me, Donna Costache, and they can Google Casa Tianu. My website is casa-tianu.com. And they can write to me at dcostache@casa-tianu.com, or they can call me at 917-275-5340.
So, Donna, can you just spell the name of your website for everybody?
Absolutely. So it's Casa, that's CASA-Tianu, that's TIANU.com.
And finally then, Diana, just to eliminate any kind of risk for somebody who may be thinking, yeah, great conversation today, Donna shared a lot of fantastic insights that are going to be really useful for me. However, I'm still a little bit cautious about picking up the phone and giving her a call or sending her an email. So just for those people who are still sat on the fence, what will actually happen? What's your process? What will happen when they actually do reach out to you, either via phone or email? What will actually happen? Paint that picture for them, please.
Well, I am there for both spouses. So I am not there more for one than for the other. And what's really great about having a mediator is that you have a neutral professional in the room with you. Neutral in the sense that you care about both parties equally, and you want them to both reach an agreement that's acceptable to both of them. So regardless of which one of the spouses contacts me, people don't call me together, so one of them is going to contact me. I encourage the party who called me to give me the contact information for the other spouse. I send them a client intake form that they need to fill in prior to our first consultation meeting, and then I schedule a consultation meeting where they both have to come in. At the consultation meeting, I offer them all the information about the process of mediation, so they will understand all the decisions that need to be made in mediation. I'll talk to them about how lengthy and how much the cost is going to be for their mediation. And they can ask me whatever other questions they want to regarding the process or specifics that they think are, more pressing or urgent for them to resolve. So that's basically the consultation. At the end of the consultation, they need to make a decision of whether or not they want to embark on this journey with me. And if they do, we sign a contract to carry on this process until completion.
Donna, it's been amazing speaking with you today. You shared so many great insights, but unfortunately, we are out of time. So once more, ladies and gentlemen, we have been listening to Family and Community Mediator, Donna Costache. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Donna. You've certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy. I'd even go as far as saying a caring advisor for your client's success. So thank you so much.
Thank you again, Stuart. And my best wishes to everybody who's listening. And I want everybody to know that they're not alone in the process of separation. And the key to truly having an impact on your children, if you have children and you decide to separate, is to show that you can keep your own power and make the decisions about your life yourself.
Thank you for that, Donna. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you. Yes, to you, our listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to speak to. So thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the leading family and community mediators in the Ridgewood, New Jersey area today. Again, her name is Donna Costache. Make sure you do check her out, ladies and gentlemen. Give her a call. Visit her website. Whatever course of action you do decide to take after listening to Donna today, I am sure that you're going to be in good hands. You know something? She's so good. I think I'm going to file for divorce, Donna, just so that I can be your client. How does that sound?
That doesn't sound good at all.
Doesn't sound good at all.
That's okay. You come in with your wife. I'm sure I'm going to help you stay together.
There, that sounds much better. Thank you so much for that. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stuart Andrew Alexander. I am a long-lost, distant relative of the British royal family, but they don't tell anybody about it. Can you imagine that, Donna? I'm the darkest secret. That Prince Charles, very naughty boy. But anyway, thank you for joining us. We're going to be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.